So, are you a Lynyrd Skynyrd fan? Do you know the story about the fateful plane crash in 1977? We're about to find out. Welcome to the Film Threat Podcast. I am Chris Gore, and I am pleased to have on the show today Jared Cohn, the director of Street Survivors, which is the true story behind the plane crash, the Lynyrd Skynyrd plane crash in 1977. The movie has a very long title, I have to say. It's my only. Yeah, it's the true story of the true story of the Lynyrd Skynyrd plane crash. That's it. Jared, you're a filmmaker who I know you've been on the Film Threat podcast before with your movie Devil's Revenge.
And thank you so much for having me. And it was such an honor to be at the award show and win for Devil's Revenge. I just got so much love for you and for Film Threat. And man,
thanks.
You're like one of the few out there, man, just really truly supporting, independent film. And it's like it's people like you and shows like this and award shows that you put on that really support, a bunch of us. It's great.
Well, I appreciate it. Let's not make it all about me. I want to know about this. I do appreciate it, but this film, dude, I mean, you could look at Devil's Revenge, you look at this movie, doesn't look like it's made by the same person. It's just there's such totally different subject matters. And I mean, I want to start off with, I mean, everyone, whether you know it or not, is a Lynyrd Skynyrd fan because you know the music, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Everybody does, right? There's the first thing is you really establish and this has got to be the fun part of the movie. Actually, the fun part is the camaraderie and the and everything about the band, right? Like, how did you cast? Like, you're casting effectively rock icons and then creating this tone in the beginning that is just all this. I mean, there's tension in the band, but there really is love at the heart of it. What went into putting together all of that and getting these people together and just recreating one of the iconic rock bands of all time?
And we saw a lot of different actors and shout out to Shelby Holt, who is our casting director. And we got to be completely honest, we got really lucky and in assembling like a really great cast. And not only obviously they had to look like the person, but we actually found people that some of them not only looked like the person, the actor, the band member that they were portraying, but that actually had a musical ability, able to perform, play the instruments. And it was crazy because the lead singer actor was able to sing, and the keyboardist was like almost like a professional keyboardist, and to Ian, who played Artemis, he actually learned from Artemis how to play the drums. So I mean, not like a rock and roll Hall of Famer like Artemis is, but he was able to to rock it out enough to where it's sold. So
well, it's interesting because you do a thing. I mean, the movie is a straight narrative story of what happened with the band. I want to get to the plane crash later, but I want to talk about a really interesting technique that you used in the film. Artimus Pyle, who is the drummer of the band and who survived the crash, he's in the movie. He has this. Can you talk about what went into that? It's a really cool, because it's not. I mean, it's not. This movie's not a documentary, but it sort of like steps out of the narrative of what you're seeing, and so you kind of know. Okay, we know at least one person is going to survive, and he's telling his story. In contrast to the 1977 story. What went into that, and how'd you get him involved? And I thought that was it really just added such a weight and a dread because we all know what's coming. But tell me about using Artemis in the film.
I mean, Artemis. I mean, we had the amazing privilege of having the real Artemis Pyle, who survived this tragic plane crash. And he was, helping with everything, story cast, like he was really there. And so I spent so much time with him, interviewing him and everything I need to do to write the screenplay. And so I worked with him. I mean, I read every Skynyrd book, interview, documentary, listened to every song. Like, so for me, it was like a huge research project. But I mean, but we had the real guy, and we were shooting, we were on set filming, and I wanted to film this, actually just this little segment where that was used at the beginning of the film. But then it was so good. It was so, seeing him on camera talking about it, and the emotions, that the authentic emotions, non-acting emotion that he brought. I was like, let me continue to get, to have you talk about this. So we got this footage. It was just amazing. I was blown away by and I was like, this has to be in the film. We decided that without a doubt, we're going to intercut this somehow. And then it worked. It just worked. So it was kind of a decision that sort of happened on the set, not during the writing process, a little bit during the writing process, but it expanded when we were on set shooting, and especially when we were in the edit, it that's when it really sort of got injected, spliced in.
It's so effective. It adds an emotional weight to everything in the film, because what's coming. You see, it's like, this is at the height of their success that this happened. It's not like they were going on a reunion tour or a farewell tour. This is the height of their success. And the thing I think is so incredible about this film that people need to, first of all, you should never watch this movie on a flight. You cannot watch this movie while you're on a flight. And there's a way you use sound, and there's this sort of like this music. It's not like a plane crash that's been in many films where it's like, oh, the plane's going to crash and then it crashes. There's all these clues that they're on this plane that they've been having issues with mechanically.
Yeah.
Right. In addition to that, there is a dread that they know they're going to crash, and they are going to try to do whatever they can to avoid it. I don't want to go into the you need to see the film to get the details of it, but it's amazing that there's this dread. They know it's coming. It's coming. They're preparing for it. And then you're seeing how everyone on the plane is reacting completely differently to this cataclysmic event they're about to experience is going to happen. People react in different ways. And so it's a build. I mean, I mean, you could tell me, but it felt like that scene went on for like 30, 40 minutes it felt like a thriller. It felt like this intense thriller. You're building, it's going to crash. They're going to do this. And then every mistake they could possibly make, they make with things that they were trying to do to kind of save themselves. This didn't work. Okay, we're going to try this. It's this building. I mean, the tension, I was riveted, just as someone who is afraid to fly, but I fly anyways. Like, watching this movie was the most intense plane crash thing. The way it was portrayed was amazing, especially, given the time that you give to get to know the characters, and then what went into that. Clearly it's almost like an action thriller sequence, the way you do it, but not in a way that's gratuitous. There's a humanity to it. So tell me what into putting together the crux of that sequence. It's a huge chunk of the movie, and I'm so glad that you spent that time.
Yeah. For me, I mean, at the end of the day, it's there's almost like it's two movies, but it two or three, but it is it's a movie about a plane crash, and I didn't, and a survival tale. But of course, in this rock biopic. So, but for me, like, it's a plane crash movie. That's the name of on the box cover. So I felt that time that needed to be on the screen. That the fact that this movie had to have like a really killer plane crash sequence, and what you said just, that makes me smile. You have no idea. And but yeah, I mean, it was a real thing, and I didn't want it to be like, just some action movie that, where it's bang bang, or engine blowout crash, and it's a 2-3 minute thing. I mean, because from my time with Artemis, and he was explaining it, and there was every detail that happened, and that he told me, and from studying the NTSB, reports from the FAA, like the dialogue, like we pulled those lines exactly from those reports of the final transmissions. So I wanted to keep it as legit as possible, and it just there was so much information and it all helped because it all created the next actual beat. And like when a plane crashes, it's not like a airplane is such a mechanically complex vehicle, that when something goes wrong, it leads to a whole series. It's like Chernobyl. Like this thing has to happen, that thing has to happen. Like a lot of things have to happen in order for a plane crash. Sometimes, I mean, obviously you can just fly it right into a mountain or whatever, but the way this one went down, I tried to check all the boxes.
Well, I mean, I don't know what the budget was, but it's like a big budget action sequence and a huge part of the film itself. You're right. You said something earlier about that. It's like it's like 2 or 3 different movies. It's like 3 movies. It's the first movie is this rise of this incredible iconic band and the camaraderie and the conflict. And then the second movie is like the plane crash itself. And then the third movie is like the fallout and the epilogue and like what and what happened after. It really is. It's like these 3 completely different movies telling this story, at least different tones in those sequences, in those segments. But the plane crash in particular, because we already know what's going to happen. We know that, I mean, it's in the title, right? So,
Yeah.
But I just felt it was so well executed. I just wonder what were some of the technical challenges in putting that together, and with the producers and other people involved in the film. Did you really have to convince them? Like, look, I want to portray this plane crash accurately, right? Because you mentioned that I didn't realize you had access to the NTSB reports about the actual crash. So I'm curious what went into clearly storyboarding the effects. Like it just seemed like it's just so well done. I really think it's the best sequence of this type I've ever seen.
Well, I mean, we had a great stunt coordinator that we worked with on doing some of the pulls, and a lot of it, I mean, it came down to definitely working out some of those stunts. But in terms of like convincing the producers, I mean, shout out to Brian Pereira from Cleopatra, who also produced Devil's Revenge. I mean, he trusted me, and I told him, I said, look, this has to be, in my mind, this brutal, realistic, humane, with respect to what actually happened. And he was awful. He was like, I completely agree. And he read the script and was watching the footage that we were shooting. Came on set, and he just kind of was like, keep rocking. Like he didn't change the course. And Artemis was on set some of the times, and so it just kind of worked. I mean, it was a tight schedule. So it was it was tough. We were trying to stretch every dollar, but I mean, luckily it came, it came together, and our editor was great. And yeah, I mean, it was a lot. I mean, it was definitely, there was a lot going on, in my head. And yeah, there was some things that were, kind of storyboarded or blocked out with the stunt team and, or, the AD. But at the end of the day, like, a lot of it was like, let's do, because a lot of ideas, I like to, when I work, I like to sort of, work with the actors, or when I see something when I'm on set, and then I'm like, all right, you know what, I want to do this thing. I got to shoot this thing because there was that table that we had on set, and it was just wasn't stable, right? And it's not anything you could have storyboarded unless you decided that, okay, this table is going to be like this. But I would have never thought about that. I was like, this table is going to break. Like you put anything other than, a couple, poker chips or whatever. So I was like, we're gonna bust this thing wide open, and and that was just an idea that just came, and we did it, and it completely it worked. So there's little things. It's a combination of preparation and being on the set, and just working with, seeing what you see, because that's I'm more of the type of my directing is less, shot list storyboarding, and more like, all right, let me work with the actors. Let me see what they, what makes sense. Let me work with the cinematographer, and let me be on set. And then all things. And then I kind of have to see it, unless it's like a very detailed action things, which part of it was, that's when you work with your, your stunt team, and okay, we're going to do this. We're going to pull wires, and those things have to be very well prepared in advance. So just a combination,
Well, it's interesting because just as shocking as the plane crash itself is the sort of what happens after,
Yeah.
which is completely unexpected. I mean, I don't know if we want to go into too much detail and ruin it, but it's really kind of a shocking, what the aftermath of this event was. I mean, it basically took this iconic rock band and just, that's it. They're done. I mean, it's horrifying. And then what happened to Artemis? I'm curious what Artemis thought of the film, if it was difficult for him to kind of re-experience parts of the movie. What did he have to say?
He, when he watched it, he said he watched it 4 times right away, and he got, he was weeping, crying, and it was emotional for him to see, which made me feel, that I did like a good job in evoking that. But yeah, I mean, and for me, that was my main, that's my main audience. You got the audience of the film, but the person that at some point it came down to, like, okay, this is Artemis's story. He's going to see this actual movie, so he is the most important audience member because this is his life. So I felt a big responsibility for him to be able to watch it.
Well, it's a remarkable movie. I mean, I could gush about it all day. But I really want to encourage everybody either watching or listening to check out this film, Street Survivors. It's a film about an iconic rock band that you would never expect. So, thank you so much for talking to us on the Film Threat podcast, Jared. It's good to see you again too. The last time I saw you was in February at Award This, and that feels like a year ago. You know what I mean? It was really just like a few months ago, right? But like, God, that feels like a year. It's been crazy.
Man, it was such an honor to.
Oh wait, you have the award? Oh my gosh! Oh, that's awesome! Oh, that's great, man. Cool. Well, you gotta. Well, look. Get ready. Award This is coming back. Award This is coming back next year. I think we're gonna have to change the dates because the Oscars just moved their dates to April 25th. So I think we're gonna adjust our dates accordingly. But it's happening again, and you gotta come. You gotta come by. Maybe as a nominee, a presenter. But you gotta come and be on the show again.
Oh, sure. You what a great event, man. It was so fun, and yeah, no, I was really honored. I was surprised and honored. It was great.
Well, if you're a filmmaker watching or listening to this, just go to awardthis.com. All you got to do is get your movie reviewed by Film Threat and have it be in commercial release in the previous year, and you're eligible for the awards. So just to let everyone out there listening or watching. But Jared, thank you so much for talking to us on the Film Threat podcast, man. It's just an honor to see you and talk to you again. And next time, see you in person.
Yeah, definitely, man. I look forward to it, and I'm sure we'll be talking soon for sure.
We'll be talking soon. Congrats on the film. Fantastic movie.
Thank you, man. June 30th.
All right.
All right.
Take care. Later.
Take care. Later, bro.